She thought her life was orderly, predictable, perfect in its own quiet way. Her marriage had the kind of stability everyone admired, the kind that made people sigh with envy. But beneath the surface, she felt a gnawing emptiness, a restlessness she couldn't quite name. It wasn't hatred, not even disappointment. It was a dull ache, a void she tried to fill with polite smiles and routine. Then one day, she crossed a line she could never uncross. A fleeting moment of weakness, a whisper of temptation, became a secret that now consumed her thoughts. She betrayed him. At first, it felt like a harmless escape, an innocent thrill stolen in the shadows. But the guilt followed her relentlessly, like a shadow she couldn't outrun. Every laugh, every touch, every conversation with him was tainted by the knowledge of what she had done. She wondered constantly if he had sensed it, if the flicker of doubt had already taken root in his eyes. And the worst part, she didn't know if she wanted to be forgiven, or if she deserved it at all. After nights of sleepless worry, she made a choice. She hired a detective. Part curiosity, part fear, and part desperate hope that she could find clarity without facing the truth herself. Each day she imagined what he might say, how he might look, how he might have moved on, or worse, how he might already know. She didn't trust herself to confront it directly. Hiring someone else to uncover the truth felt safer, more bearable, even though she knew it could only make the heartbreak sharper. Her mind raced as she waited for the detective's first report. Every creak of the floor, every sudden silence, made her pulse quicken. The fear of the unknown clawed at her chest. She had taken the first step into a reality she could no longer control, and deep down, she knew there was no going back. The detective's first words stayed with her long after the call ended. "It's not what you think." That phrase clawed at her, twisting her thoughts into knots she couldn't untangle. She had imagined every possible scenario: anger, revenge, departure, but this suggestion of uncertainty unsettled her more than certainty ever could. She tried to imagine him, going about his life, unaware, hurt, or perhaps already changed. The waiting became unbearable. Every sound, every notification, every small interruption made her heart leap. Her mind spun with questions she didn't want answered. Did he suspect her betrayal? Was he silently punishing her, pretending ignorance? Or was he moving on, already trying to fill the space she had left empty with her own mistakes? She realized she had created a monster in her own mind, one that grew larger with each passing hour. Every memory of their life together now carried double weight, tinted by doubt and fear. When the detective called again, she felt a surge of desperate hope and dread at the same time. Every report, every small detail he offered became a tiny dagger, twisting her emotions further. She learned about patterns she had never noticed, subtle actions he had taken, moments she had overlooked. The realization sank in that the truth was far more complicated than her guilt had imagined. It wasn't just about her betrayal. There were layers she couldn't predict, secrets she had never suspected, consequences she had never foreseen. She wanted answers, yet feared them more than anything. The detective's words lingered in her mind. "What I've found is only the beginning." Each message, each revelation, pushed her closer to a breaking point. She couldn't look away, couldn't stop herself, and couldn't prepare for what was coming. Her life, the life she had thought she controlled, was slipping through her fingers. And she knew, with a certainty that chilled her, that the next discovery would change everything. When the detective finally spoke the truth, her heart seized before her mind could process it. She had prepared herself for anger, for confrontation, for the collapse of everything she thought she knew. Instead, she was met with a reality far stranger, far harsher than anything she had imagined. He knew. Not in fleeting suspicion, not in vague distrust, he knew. Every gesture, every word, every quiet moment had been catalogued in his mind long before she could even comprehend the weight of her actions. Her breath caught as the implications sank in. He hadn't confronted her, hadn't yelled, hadn't fled. He had watched, waited, and chosen a response that broke her more deeply than any confrontation could. The life they had shared, the laughter, the shared memories, had all been real, but shadowed by knowledge she had been too blind to see. The betrayal she had thought was her secret had never been hers alone. She trembled at the thought of what he might have endured silently, the nights spent wondering, the private grief he carried without complaint. It wasn't vengeance he had sought, it was understanding, observation, patience. Her guilt, already heavy, became unbearable, compounded by the realization that she had underestimated him, underestimated the strength of his heart, the depth of his perception. In that moment, she understood the cost of her choices. The pain wasn't just hers, it belonged to him too, a burden she had placed on someone who deserved none of it. The truth shattered her illusions, leaving only raw regret and a hollow ache she could not ignore. Every hope of easy redemption, of reconciliation without reckoning, crumbled. She had crossed a line, and the echo of that crossing would follow her for the rest of her life. She realized there was no turning back, only the choice of how she would carry the consequences. She sat in the silence of her own choices, the weight of what had transpired pressing down on her chest. Every instinct urged her to run from the pain, to bury it beneath distractions or excuses, but she knew there was nowhere to hide. The truth had changed everything, her understanding of herself, her marriage, and the fragile balance of trust she had so carelessly shattered. There was no rewriting history, no erasing the consequences. She reflected on the man she had betrayed, on the patience he had shown, and on the quiet dignity with which he had carried his knowledge. For all the fear and guilt that consumed her, a reluctant respect began to take root. He had endured what most would not, had observed without immediate judgment, and had allowed her the space to confront her own mistakes. The depth of his restraint was a mirror showing her the magnitude of her error, and it was almost unbearable to face. Questions lingered. Could forgiveness exist here, or was it a distant, unattainable hope? Could she repair what had been broken, or was the act itself an irreversible fracture? Even as doubt and regret swirled, she recognized that understanding the consequences was the first step toward accountability. She could not erase the past, but she could carry its lessons forward. Every heartbeat, every moment of reflection, became a reminder of the gravity of trust and the devastation wrought by its betrayal. Her life would never be the same. The clarity she had sought through the detective's work had arrived, brutal and uncompromising, leaving her exposed to the truth she had long avoided. Yet within the devastation, a small flicker remained, a chance to confront her choices honestly, to accept the pain, and to learn from it. She knew the path ahead would be lonely, filled with the echoes of what she had lost, but for the first time, she understood that living with the consequences was the only way forward.